I was 3 weeks away from putting down the deposit on my first home, my dream. My escape, the thing I'd worked 6 years for, when my phone lit up with a casual text from my mom. "Hope you don't mind, sweetie. We borrowed a little from your account for the Super Bowl party. We'll pay you back soon." I froze. My account held every cent I'd saved since college. It wasn't a little, it was everything. I called instantly, voice shaking. Dad answered, laughing over background music and clinking glasses. "Relax, kiddo, it's just money. You'll make more. This party's once in a lifetime." In that moment, I realized my family had turned my future into their weekend entertainment. And I knew whatever happened after tonight, things would never be the same. I didn't grow up with much. My parents always claimed we were just getting by. But somehow there was always money for Dad's new fishing gear or Mom's weekend getaways with her friends. I learned early that if I wanted something, I'd have to earn it myself. At 19, I started my savings jar, a chipped ceramic vase I found at a thrift store. It wasn't just for coins. It was for freedom. Every side hustle I picked up, every overtime shift I dragged myself through, I funneled a piece into that fund. I skipped concerts. I drove an ancient car with no AC through to blistering summers. I learned to say I can't when friends invited me out because every dollar had a job. And that job was buying me a front door I could call mine. By 25, the jar had turned into a real account. I'd amassed enough for a down payment, closing costs, and even a small cushion for repairs. I'd walk through neighborhoods on my lunch break, imagining which porch I'd decorate for my first Halloween. My parents knew all of it. Every sacrifice, every milestone. They smiled when I told them I was finally house hunting, even joked about helping me pick the place. I took that as support. Now I understand it was something else entirely. Because while I was dreaming of open houses and mortgage they were picturing a party menu, guest list, and a rented 12-foot screen. All paid for with my future. Looking back, the warning signs were always there. My parents treated my savings like a community resource, and I was the community. In college, Mom once borrowed my rent money to cover a friend's spa weekend. Dad took $500 from my part-time paycheck to fix the car, only for me to see him a week later with a brand new fishing rod. Whenever I'd bring it up, they'd brush it off with family helps family, or guilt-trip me about how much they'd done for me growing up, and I let it slide. I told myself they'd pay me back. I told myself they wouldn't take advantage of me forever. There were also the smaller cracks, the casual way they'd suggest I pay for dinners out, or how Dad would wink at me when the check came, as if we had some unspoken agreement. I ignored them, believing that deep down they respected the work I was doing to build my future. What I didn't realize then was that to them, my hard-earned money was just sitting there, waiting to be used. And once they decided it should fund their biggest party ever, there was nothing in their minds wrong with that. It started with a phone call to my bank. I'd found the perfect little house, a 2-bedroom with a creaky front porch and a magnolia tree out front, and my realtor needed the down payment wired. I logged into my account expecting to see the balance I'd built over 6 long years. Instead, the number staring back at me was barely enough to cover my next month's rent. I thought it was a mistake. Fraud? Maybe. The bank rep explained it wasn't. The withdrawals were authorized by my parents, who were joint account holders from when I was a teenager. Multiple transfers over the past month. Thousands gone. I called Mom first. She answered like nothing was wrong. "Oh, that. We borrowed it for the Super Bowl party. You know, just to make it special. We'll pay you back soon." My voice cracked. "You took my house money. All of it." Dad's voice chimed in from the background, already laughing with someone. "Relax, kiddo, you'll make more. This party's once in a lifetime." They talked about it like it was an upgrade to a backyard barbecue, not the destruction of my future. I hung up before my anger turned into something uglier. That night, I sat on my apartment floor. Lease renewal form in one hand, empty savings account in the other. And as I scrolled through social media, there it was, photos of my parents surrounded by neighbors, beer cups raised, grinning in front of the giant rented screen I had unknowingly paid for. The next morning, Mom called again, not to apologize, but to defend herself. "You know we'll pay you back, right? It was for the family. Everyone had such a great time. You should have seen the spread." I could feel my pulse in my temples. "It wasn't your money to spend." Silence. Then, the familiar sigh. "You're overreacting. It's not like you were buying a house tomorrow." And anyway, money comes and goes. Family is forever. That was the moment it hit me. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a pattern. They had never once taken my goals seriously, and now they'd taken the only thing keeping those goals alive. I hung up before the conversation could spiral, sat at my kitchen table, and stared at the blank lease renewal form. My savings were gone. My trust was gone, and the people who should have been my safety net had just cut the rope. I'd spent years believing their behavior was carelessness. Now I knew better. It was entitlement. And if I didn't draw the line here, they'd cross it again and again, until there was nothing left to take. I didn't shout. I didn't slam doors. Instead, I started collecting evidence. Bank statements showing every withdrawal, screenshots of the party photos they'd proudly plastered on Facebook, comments from neighbors praising the most epic Super Bowl bash ever. My parents had basically gift-wrapped the proof. First, I emailed my realtor explaining what happened. She referred me to a lawyer friend who confirmed exactly what I needed, since they were joint account holders. I couldn't charge them with theft, but I could file a civil claim for repayment. It wouldn't be quick, but it would be public. Record.next. I printed the photos and statements, slipping them into neat, labeled folders. One went to my grandparents, who'd always assumed my parents were helping me save. Another to my aunt, who'd lent my parents money years ago and never seen it again. I didn't embellish, I didn't have to. The evidence spoke louder than any speech I could give. And then came the neighborhood. I waited until the monthly HOA meeting, the same one where my parents usually bragged about their hospitality. During the open forum, I stood up, handed out copies, and calmly explained, "That party you all enjoyed. It was funded by the house savings I worked 6 years for without my consent." The silence in that room was louder than any shouting match. My parents' faces went pale. By the next week, invitations to their barbecues dried up. Their so-called friends stopped dropping by. They couldn't host the parties they lived for, not with their golden reputation shattered. It wasn't jail time. It wasn't even the money back, not yet. But watching them sit in their silent, unvisited house, that was the first time I felt like I'd taken something back. I opened a brand new account the next morning, no joint names. No shared access. No more just borrowing. Every paycheck since has gone there. Untouchable. The dream of buying a house isn't gone. It's just mine again. And this time I'll guard it like my life depends on it. I also learned something bigger than money. Family isn't defined by blood or shared last names, it's defined by who respects you enough to protect what matters to you. My parents showed me exactly where I stood, and I've decided I'm better off building a future without depending on people who see my hard work as their backup fund. The savings will grow again. The house will come. But the trust I lost that day, that's never coming back. And honestly, that's okay, because now, I finally know who I'm really working for.